It's right up there with brushing teeth. It should be a part of every day's routine.
Students entering kindergarten that already have early literacy skills have a huge advantage against their peers.
So kindergarten may be the beginning of a child's academic career, but preparing a child to be a successful lifetime reader begins at birth or even earlier in the womb.
By giving kids the ability to read and inquire and be curious about things, find information on their own, is really powerful, and that's what's going to get them jobs in the future. They're going to have to learn their field. We can't teach them now because we don't know what it is.
I like reading because it helps me get smarter, and also it's very useful because, say, for my math problems, I have to read what I have to do.
Maybe it helps you get better at, like, when you're older and you have to fill out papers and stuff, that you know, like, what words mean.
If you're uncomfortable reading a book, get a book that's just pictures with no words and just talk about the pictures. It's your voice that children want to hear, it's your language they want to hear, it's the opportunity to be close to them.
Literacy is one of the strongest predictors of a child's future success in school and life, and the best time to prepare for this success is during a child's first 5 years. Reading with a child imparts so many critical benefits. It can also come with challenges. The video explains why it's critical to read with kids from the very beginning and offers tips and strategies for sharing books successfully with young children.
Reading, especially to young kids, sets them up with some skills and abilities that allow them to succeed when they get to school, and then just later in life, even after school when they're adults, in a way that not many activities that you do with 2 and 3 and 4-year-olds can do.
What did you see?
A cat!
It's the first steps that they really have to knowledge base. There's so much in books that they can learn, from the little things to recognizing their letters and listening to the story and, you know, beginning to learn comprehension and what the story means. Each child picks up something different out of the story, but they're picking up something. And, you know, some days you may have children of this age that don't listen at all. They have no interest in sitting there and really reading the story. But you find later on that they may ask me a question about what was in that book.
Above all, the reading experience should be positive and enjoyable for the child, so they associate right away reading a book with someone as a really warm, fuzzy experience, something that they're going to want to repeat. They'll have positive associations with books and language. You're also opening up opportunities for them to have a lifelong habit that will bring them joy and connect with others, but also think interesting thoughts themselves.
Making connections, you know, that's the whole point of reading, is to make personal connections to who you are as a learner.
I think that at the end of the day, kids, really what they want more than anything in life, more than, you know, things, is adults' undivided attention. And reading kind of provides a way for us to give that to them. And I think that that benefit is sometimes not thought about, but it's this really kind of special time. There's lots of work that shows that the more young kids are read to when they enter kindergarten, they're better listeners, and then that kind of develops into them being better students and doing better and having more self-confidence and all sorts of things. Reading is one of the very best ways to develop vocabulary. And so when you read to kids, especially older kids, it's a way for them to learn all of these really important words that we don't use in our day-to-day conversation. It improves memory development. It also improves kids' ability to predict information, which is a really important ability. It's a really great way to teach kids how to listen.
Sometimes people ask how young is too young, and I would say never. Reading to an infant really just means showing them the pictures in a book and talking about the pictures. The books that infants love don't have a lot of words. They may not have any words, and they usually just have one simple picture to a page. What really matters there is how the adult talks about the picture, how the adult makes connections to things in the child's own environment and own life. Oh, look at this doggy. This is like your doggy. This is like the doggy we saw yesterday outside. That's the kind of reading that really appeals to an infant. Books with clear, bright pictures, one picture to a page, that's what's going to engage an infant. And you're certainly not going to read the book cover to cover. You're going to show a few pages that capture the baby's interest and talk about those.
I think it is so important to start early, to start babies, infants. It's so important for them to just hear the words. Speech and language, it affects everything. And as a population, generation, as people, you read your entire life. And so starting this early and this young and building the foundation for what their future is going to be like is so important. And I think literacy is so important. It's so important to start them so young.
Babies like to chew books and put them in their mouths. They think of books as any other objects in their environment. So what you do there is get books that it's okay for them to put in their mouths. So cloth books or really sturdy cardboard books. And if part of their process of discovering books is to occasionally put them in their mouths, that's okay. Toddlers, like infants, like simple cardboard sturdy books. They can handle a little more action in a picture, a little more activity, but they do still really like simplicity. Again, you don't need a lot of words on a page for a toddler. Toddlers are starting to get more fine motor control. They're really interested in lift the flap books, guessing what's under the flap and lifting it up, or turning something on the page. They like that surprise and discovery. So that might be a case where you're going to have a thing of tape nearby so you can fix the flaps periodically.
She really likes the touch and feel books. She really likes books about like farms with animals, things like that. Books that have like pop-up things and things that she can unfold from the page. She really likes to get in there with her hands.
Toddlers also have a really nice sense of humor. They like when things don't come out the way you predict. So when the illustration shows a grown-up putting his shoes on his head, that kind of thing, incongruity, they think that's hysterical, and they'll love to look at that page over and over. They like to make the sounds the animals in the book make. They like to repeat some words in the book, so they can get really engaged in a book. Again, they may not want to follow a storyline from the first word to the last word, but you can use lots of different strategies to get them engaged in what's going on the page. Toddlers like to have control. That's an age where they're starting to feel their own power and feeling a lot of frustration when they don't have power. So reading a book is one place where you can give them a little bit of control, let them decide which book they want to read, let them decide how they want to read it. Maybe they want to read it by looking at 2 pages with you and then running around the room and doing some stuff and coming back and looking at the next page. Or they want to hold the book and decide when to turn the page. Or they want to skip back and look at pages they've already looked at. All of that is fine because your goal isn't to make them sit and listen to a story from beginning to end, but to get them involved in what's happening in the book and get them interested and get them to think of books in a really positive way. And you can use lots of rich language in talking about the book and talking about the pictures in the book that will also interest toddlers, even if you don't read the story from beginning to end. Some toddlers, and certainly preschoolers, will be able to fill in a missing word in a sentence. If you are reading along, they'll be able to supply a word if you pause and wait. And certainly toddlers can do that with a book they're really familiar with. Preschoolers can guess at words that rhyme. And when you leave that word out, it gives them a chance to use their language skills to predict what word is going to come next, and that's a great literacy skill. You can also ask them to predict what event will happen next. What do you think will happen now? What do you think the dog will do? And that gives them a chance to try out some ideas, which will engage them with the story, and also to practice that predicting skill, which is great for literacy. Preschoolers love to read and be read to. They will pick up books that are their favorites, and they will want to hear them over and over and over and over until you know them by heart and they know them by heart. And if you dare to deviate from the way the story is supposed to go, they will correct you. Preschoolers are experiencing a language explosion. 4-year-olds are learning something like 10 new words a day, and they have this insatiable appetite for words. So hearing the language in books, hearing lots of stories is something they just love. They also love rhyming stories and rhyming words, and that can be a great way to engage them. Reading books that have a predictable rhythm and a predictable sense of language so that, again, they can supply what's going to come next or what's going to happen next. It's absolutely important to show emotions when you're reading, to show the emotional range in your voice and in your face. And preschoolers are really learning to recognize emotions in others. So showing those emotions of the characters in the book or emotions associated with the plot of the story, surprise or happiness, will really help them to understand what emotions look like. And that's an important skill for building empathy, so they recognize those emotions in their friends and in others.
So giving kids the vocabulary to talk about what they're seeing or what they're feeling is crucial for their social emotional development.
Preschoolers also enjoy opportunities to act out stories, either while you're reading, they can act it out. So you can read a book like Caps for Sale and say, "Caps for sale, 50 cents a cap," and the children can act out the act of selling the caps. They can act out what the monkeys do when they say tss, tss, tss. They can do all the actions in the story. Or you can ask the children to, if they want to act out the story after they've read it a few times, after they really know the story. So something like Three Little Pigs, they may want to act out building the different houses and having the wolf come in and try to blow them down. And they enjoy doing that, and that's a great way to build their sense of stories, beginning, middle, and end, plot sequencing, understanding how stories work.
Reading is a really personal moment. Even if you're reading to a group of children, every kid perceives it as kind of a one-on-one activity, even if they're sitting with other bodies. It's a really nice way to have that, a really personal connection, even though you may be, one adult responsible for 7 kids at any given time.
And it's really hard for toddlers to see if you sit and face them and hold the book out to them, so you want to be looking at the book together with the child next to you or in your lap, so the book is facing both of you at the same time, and you can point to things that are in the pictures and look at the pictures closely. That'll be much better for toddlers' visual skills than looking across or halfway across a room at a book that the teacher's holding up. So keep the experience cozy and intimate, and that works best for toddlers. Some of the ways you can make an experience with a book interactive are by using your voice to act out some of the voices of the characters in the book, asking the child to fill in a word that you leave missing, or asking a child to make noises like the animals in the book. And that's going to really focus the child's attention on what's happening in the story. When they get a little older, you can ask them, "What do you think is going to happen next?" And then they get to make a prediction, which will also really engage them in the story. And those predicting skills are great pre-literacy skills. Some of the ways you can make that engaging are to say, okay, when we hear from the frog, everybody say ribbit, and they'll all join in. Or you can find ways to have them participate, raising a hand when they hear a word, or doing an action associated with the plot of the story.
The most important first step is to have books at eye level for kids that they're able to reach and play with, and set up in a display so that it's enticing for kids to want to take them, grab them off the shelf and look at them.
We actually read every day, multiple times a day. I have children that will come up to me with just books and say, "TT, read." And so that is one way that we integrate literacy into our day. We have circle time in the morning. I also read to the children before they go down for rest time. And so a minimum of twice a day, we are reading to the kids. I rotate the books out. I volunteer in the library, and I also have a vast library myself.
Also, we know what children are interested in. If we're spending time in the classroom with them, we could see what really excites their interest inside the classroom, outside the classroom. They bring in things from home, they talk about experiences, and we can find books that relate to those interests and those experiences, and that just enriches them even more.
Some kids who struggle with reading are reading those same words every day that we sing the songs. I'm thinking to myself that it can help seeing the same words every day and going over them. It develops a love for words and language.
Rhyming words, singing songs, playing games such as I Spy, or counting how many things that you can see from your house to the grocery store, whether it's cows or how many white houses or whatever. Those are all wonderful things. Listening to books on tape are great opportunities for parents and caregivers to enrich vocabulary and provide background. To sum it all up, just taking everyday experiences and adding oral language to those experiences, turning them into opportunities to learn.
The end. I